Good morning, a good evening, and a good afternoon. This is Nathaniel Kempton Productions here today, and welcome back to Railworks, a terrain simulator 2021. Welcome to the first episode of my new Railworks Route building tutorial series. Today we're going to be building a station, very simply, very easily, so let's do just that. What shall we name it? Tutorial Central. There we go. So, select ground texture there. This is basically the what the grass looks like on the ground. You can choose any which one of these that you want, but personally, I prefer to select the default. You can give a latitude and longitude if you really want to. I don't personally bother. Click Create. There it is, Tutorial Central. And then we'll click on Edit. Okay, and there we go. On the route, we have been dumped in the middle of literally buttfuck nowhere. So, this is where we're going to start with our little station area. So the first thing we're going to want to do is go into the Object Set Filter. Let me just get rid of MSI Afterburner there. And we're going to scroll down until we find the ones that we want. So let's have a look at DTG. What do we have in DTG that we can use that I've actually got access to? Malmesbury. There's some nice assets there. Yep, that's about it. Woodhead BR, I don't have that. So now we're going to scroll all the way down to RSC. That's where a lot of the decent routes are. So we're going to do Bath Temple Combe, Brighton Main Line. Then we'll do Falmouth Branch, which takes a little bit of time. Whoops. To load there. What else should we have? There's Woodhead somewhere. Woodhead, West Somerset. I think that. Oh no, Settle Carlisle. That's one that I like. You don't have to select all of these ones if you really don't want to. Riviera Line. You can just use the default assets if you prefer. Okay, so now we've got the set filters for what we can use. So we'll go down to track rule. I'm going to use the North Somerset track rule. So you select that down there and then click up here with track rule current, and there's all the different options that we've got. So Bullhead track rail brown looks like that. Rail dark looks like that. I think I'm more taken by the left one there actually. Bullhead rail new, so that's slightly cleaner version of both of these. There's one for a tunnel. There's rails only, so there's one with no ballast. For whatever reason you might want that. Maybe you're doing a lightly laid piece of track work, who knows. And then there's one with no sleepers at all, which is just rail and not check rail. What are they? Rail chairs. So I think we'll use this one here. So let's delete all of these. That was rail brown. Let's bring up the little what is it, compass thing. So this is where he's facing north, and this way is facing south. So I think we'll go northbound. I want 2 tracks, so I've just changed that down here with the number of tracks, and then you can see the 2 arrows there. You'll lay 2 tracks at the same time. So, for station length, I just kind of eyeball it. Do I want this to be on a straight platform or a curved? We'll have a slight curve to the left. Somewhere like that. Very nice. Now we need to go back to 1 track yet again. There we go, nice and easy. And then coming off whichever track you want, the left or the right. I'm going to do this as the... I'll do it as the right. No, we won't do it as the left. So you want to continue this one on more than you need it to be. And then the other one will just go boop. And oops. And bang. There we go. And that renders a point with a little point lever next to it. Now, if you don't want the point lever there at all, you can simply just click it and then sink it, bury it under the ground, and it will disappear. Or come down to this option here, bottom left, manual junctions. If you turn that off when you build a piece of track, let's just build this terrible piece of point work here. You can see it renders without the point lever. Like this side here. You see the little lever there isn't over here anywhere. It's got these little electric point motor detector changer thingies instead. So if you want all automatic, well, not automatic, but the kind of the look of automatic points, you can do that. I personally, I do manual junctions, and then any that I don't want to be manual, I just bury the little lever there in the ground like that. Because burying it in the ground, it doesn't affect the way the point moves at all. You can still click on the point whilst you're in game and change the point completely fine. Whoops. Which I find a little bit easier. So now we need to shorten this head shunt a little bit because it's a bit too long. Again, I just eyeball it about there. You can do proper measurements with it if you really want to. You highlight it and that has a length of... network length 66.6 feet. So there you go. That apparently is 66 feet long. And this piece is 160 feet long. So, or meters rather. 66.6 meters long. The thing I do now is I jump straight into the scenario editor so I can work out how I want the platform to actually be. So in this instance, I'm just going to choose any old Mark 1 that I find. Yep, that'll do. Doesn't have to be a Mark 1, but I choose to use Mark 1s just because they're roughly the maximum length. So I spam them down. And then that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 coaches long. So that seems about right to my eyes. So 8 coaches. We know 8 coaches will fit in here nicely. So what I will do is add an extra few feet on the end just to make up room for the locomotive. So about that much, like so. And then again, just like we did at the other end. So we want this to be the main running line here. Do we? Yes. And then we'll just bring that off at a weird angle like that. Except I want this line to curve left out of the station. So, like so. And then exactly the same as the other ends. We will just join these up. A little something like that. So there we go. Very rough. That's the kind of... That's the platform area ish with the run round loop. We're going to add a few sidings as well, coming off of the run round loop, namely, because it's just easier that way. And remember, you can do all of the speed limits and things straight here. I tend not to bother with that. I tend to do it after the fact. Or sometimes I don't even bother at all because I'm lazy. You've got the line type option here. This just dictates how tight the curves and the points are. So you can see at main line, that's the tightest that it can go. And then if I change that to something like yard, you should see that it's a bit tighter. There you go. You can see the difference there. And that also makes a difference for point work as well. I tend to leave it on the main line just because it's a little bit easier to determine how good the point work is going to be for running large locos over. So something like that, you'll know that most big engines will get round that. So we will branch it off somewhere there. And you can see automatically renders a point, but it's put the point lever in the middle of the main line, running lines, which is kind of useless. So you just click it, drag it over the other side, and give it a bit of a spinny spin round. Meow. And then drag it back over the other side. Like so. And then hit F2 to save. So there we go. So we go up to this point now, and we know that this little spur of the main line here is going to be our locomotive depot stroke yard. I recommend, after the piece of curved track and the point here, I recommend laying roughly about 50 meters or so of straight track, just to make sure that you've got enough room for the point work, which you'll see in a moment. So Again, I'm going to change this to... I'll do 3 for once. No, I won't do that. I've done that wrong. That needs to be 2 tracks. Oops. Then again, straight for about 50 feet. Meters, sorry. Like so. We'll keep it as 2, I think, for now. So I'm actually going to extend these a little bit more. We'll go another 50 meters, shall we? Oh, that'll do. There we go. So now we need to go back to 1 track, like so. And then we need to join this track, this track up with this track. It automatically laid that then. I didn't tell it to do that. The game does that sometimes. You just need to be a bit wary. And there we go. So automatically renders a point. It's made it a curved point, but that's fine. It's quite a long point, though. That's the only thing. So I'm actually going to change that. I'm going to... See, this is where the curvature thing is handy. So I'm going to change that to yard, which, remember, makes everything a little bit radius of curves and points tighter. So I'm going to bring it in as tight as I can there. And then there you go. That joins it up on the straight. And that looks fine to my eyes. If you wanted to, you could add like a little turntable thing, which we might do, maybe. You can choose whichever one you want. I quite like the look of the Minehead turntable, just because it looks good. So we can add this over here, but I want to see if I can squeeze it in the middle of the 2 tracks here. So I'm going to put that down there, and you can see the red rectangle bits is where the track can be joined onto. So can you start from the turntable? Oh, you can. It just doesn't want to start from here, which is slightly annoying. But that's fine. You can actually snap that to fit onto that anyway later on. So let's lay a spur coming off down here somewhere. Again, I'm going to select yard. Bring it back quite far. And then, boop, like that. Has that rendered correctly? Yes, it has. Lovely. And then bring this on roughly where the turntable is. Now, up here, you want to select the join button, and you want to join that to that. That didn't work. Join that to that. That's not working. Okay, we'll join that to that. There we go. It can be a bit finicky sometimes, but there you go. So now we've got our shed and servicing area and our turning area over here. Now, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to delete some of this track by using the split option here. Then with the the no sleepers option, I'm going to lay a few feet or a few meters like that of just rail with no sleepers. And then in the options, object tools, and I think stations. For some reason I don't have the AP stations pack up, so I'm going to have to go and find that. So this is a really good one to have if you don't already have it. I think it's free from website somewhere. So this just gives you some very kind of generic looking things, but they're quite handy. And one of the things that it does in fact give you is various length inspection pits. You can see, so that's a long one. So that's probably the one that we're going to want. So, oops, get the camera out a little bit further. Put that down there. So we need to add a little bit more length on this one. That's fine. So get this lined up. And then drag it over into place. Something like that. Does that look about right? No, not really. This can be a bit difficult to do. So if you're moving things around on the axis here, on the X or the Y axis, and it's going too fast, hold Shift, then click, and you can see it slows it way down for you, which means getting precision movements like this is much easier. That looks about right to my eyes. So you can see we need to extend this a little bit. So back to the track laying options, no sleepers, and then hold control to make it go straight. And somewhere there, I reckon. Oh yeah, look at that. Basically perfection. So if you want to, you can lay a little bit of straight track with sleepers coming off the turntable. Again, you don't have to. That's just, you know, that's up to you. There we go. So now we've got a little bit of an inspection pit just before the turntable here. And in fact, I think this is where I'm going to put the servicing point for the locos. So first of all, I'm going to lay a very short piece of straight track right off the back of the turntable like that. Just makes it a little bit more realistic. Let's find a shed to use. So back to the object tools. Back to the station, is it stations tools? I think so. And then again, AP stations, shed old. You can have this little wooden one, which actually, although it's quite an old and blurry looking asset, it serves very, very well. So I think it looks like we're going to have to go with that wooden one that we found in the AP stations list. That's absolutely fine. That's normally what I go for, just because it's a good kind of middle ground. So I'm going to have this kind of in the middle here, I think. Is that straight? I actually can't tell. I think maybe a tiny bit that way. Now, if you think that's too small, you can copy and paste it. And put another one, oops, directly behind it, if you so choose. For an effect like that. Except we're going to have to move the walls in. To the merge, like that. We'll get the drain pipes looking something like that. So now there's a much bigger wooden shed. So there's a slightly different one there. Let's get that around the right way. Whoop, like that. But that's not the correct spacing in this instance. So that's another option that you could use. So I think we'll have to stick with what we've got for the moment. That's fine. So if we go on to the track infrastructure option, you can see here with AP stations pack, we've got coal tower, water tank, a swan water tank, or a coal bunker. I prefer to use this coal bunker just because it looks a bit neater and smaller. So little arrow thing here is where you want the watch track you want to be accessible by it. So in this case, that one. There you go. And then we'll have water swan as well. We'll have that just behind it. Actually, no, we won't. We'll have a water tank crane looking thing. And again, same thing as before. So we want that about there somewhere. You can raise this up and down and put it on a plinth if you really want to get the tube thing here at the right height. I choose not to, just because it's a bit hassly and it can look a little bit strange sometimes, so I tend to just leave it there. We need to build the platform, but first, our inspection pit is full of dirt and inaccessible, so we need to change that. So, onto your objects, and bridges and tunnels, and you want to press T, and you get tunnel hole decal appear. This little black square thing appears. So we're going to put this under the inspection pit here. A little something like that. And then you see these little arrows appear. That means you can resize it. So we'll resize it to the length of the thing. There, we need to make it straight. So you can use the G and F keys for this. Or if you want to do old school, of course, you can use the rotation option here. So that looks about right. So now we need to shrink it down a little bit. So I'm going to move this out. So one edge is completely in line. Still not quite straight by the look of it. Doesn't have to be perfect as long as it doesn't stick out anywhere under the inspection pit thing itself. And then grab this, and then you can slide it in like so. So now I know that the inspection pit has a big black thing under it. And also, as you can see, the inspection pit isn't actually joined up to it. So, going to click it, and then using the arrows and shift, raise it up until it touches just the bottom of the rail chair, like so. And you can see it's still full of black, but once we go into play mode, the black disappears, and you can see there's a fully rendered inspection pit. Okay, so you get a little bit of magic grass hovering over the top of it. You can't really avoid that, I'm afraid. You can see the steps are rendered in correctly there as well. Control E, back to the editing world. Doing it with the turntable does sometimes mean that you get, because of course it's a round structure with a square hole in it, which can look a bit stupid. So what I like to do is I like to grab the terrain height tool with the paintbrush size of about, maybe we'll try 30. Click and hold in the middle of it. You can see that's a bit too big, but we can try. And then just drag the terrain down until it reveals itself, like so. And you can see if we go underneath, yes, it's a little bit kind of floaty in the air, but you can hide that with bushes and trees and shrubbery later on. So now we can get on with doing the actual platform. So back to your linear objects tool, and you want to go over to the select tool. Now select where you want your platform to start. I want it to start here, and then you see this little grey line thing appears, and if you drag your mouse, this appears. You want to drag this as long as you want your platform to be. So in my case, to there. Ignore all of this information here for the moment. Over to the left again with your offset tool, and then, ooh, weird things appear. Now for platforms, you want this arrow to be facing out. Then, of course, you go into your platforms list, and then you can find a platform that you want to use. In this case, I'm going to use platform UK02 7.6 meters. Left 1970s. Going to click on that, and then click that arrow, and bang, the platform renders at ground level. So click off, and then you can see where the platform is. Now, yep, you can see there it's rendered in 2 or 3 entirely different sections. So what we're going to do, we're going to separate them all by just dragging them away like that. They're all separate objects now, so double click on one of them and set the height to 1.5 meters, and then bang, you see it renders at 1.5 meters off the ground. Now, again, using the shift button, click it and then drag it away from the track slightly. You want to be kind of halfway between the edge of the sleepers and where the ballast drops off. Roughly. I'm going to go back a little bit more than that. Somewhere there should be fine. Just so when locos come in, they don't crash into the edge of the platform. Now, an easy way of getting these platforms to the same height as this platform is our old friend, the join tool. I want to join that to that, and that to that, and then bang, they've all joined at the same height and, hopefully, the correct distance away. Looks like we missed one of these little bits of platform here, but never fear, the same thing. Join you to you, and then bang. Look at that. Now, for the ramps, platform ramps can be a little bit tricky. You could, if you wanted to, use the old-fashioned way, or the gradient tool, and drag it down, and there you go, there's a platform ramp, but that can introduce issues with the height that passengers render at. So in this instance, we're going to go back to stations in our static objects. Going to go P for platforms, and then find platform UK02 7.6 LE1 and LE2. So LE2 is the one that we need. This is just a static platform ramp. it makes building stations and platforms so much easier. You just click it and drag it into place until it lines up. And some of that, bang, there you go. Slight colour difference, but you won't really notice that in game. So now we do the same thing at this end with 7.6 LE1, and then drag that round and get it lined up. Somewhere there, and then bang. So now our little station area has a platform with no platform station building. So to get back into the AP stations, you can use one of these generic station buildings. Where are they? Down here. So here's one of them. That's a big one. Then you've got a smaller one, another more different smaller one, an even smaller one, teeny tiny, until you find something that's just a garden shed. In this instance, though, I'm going to click S to get to the Southern Carlisle, and I'm going to choose large red brick. There we go. This is the building that I'm going to use. Same as it did with the platforms, double click, 1.5 meters tall, and then drag it into place. A little something like that. You want to make sure that all the doors are accessible from the platform, which you can see most of them are. Now, this particular station building, which is why I choose to use it, has a large brick foundation out the back. You can see here the doors are at platform height, and then you've got a big brick wall dropping off down the bottom. If we go back up to the AP stations pack and choose one of the station buildings, we'll choose this big one here and say, oh, I want to use that. Double click, 1.5 meters tall. You can see, oh, it's flying. There's no pre-rendered foundation layer to it. You can, if you want to, back at the top of the AP Stations pack, use these brick blocks here to make up the foundation layer. A little something like that, and then get it lined up. But that's a lot of hassle and extra work, so I choose to do it this way, using the Southern Carlisle ones. But as you can see, there's doors there, and doors there, and there's also a door there. So we are going to use the AP Stations blocks. We can use the square one, which is option number 2, and just get this. Actually, we'll use block 1 in this instance. Turn it round that way, and get it so it's just about to disappear into the building, like so, and then drag it up until it's roughly the same height as the platform, just below, so it clips through the air. There we go, a little something like that. So now these doors have access to the platform, so we're going to use the slope on this instance here. That one's not quite enough. We might be able to make it work by raising it up a little bit. Yes, we can. So let's get that straight and in line with the building. That looks about right. We'll get the height just under the doorstep. There we go. Now there's a nice access to that door. And now we need to do the same thing with these 2 doors here. 3 blocks, or 2 blocks and 1 slope, and it's done. And now you can see the building has access that looks fairly realistic. We need to go back to linear options, then the select tool, and you want to select the entire length of the platform, and the offset tool again. Now, we want the fence, or in this case the wall, to be in line with the back of the platform. So come down here to track offset, change that to 4 meters from off center, or 3 meters off center, or in this case 3.5 meters from the center. You can see now the yellow lines are exactly on the edge of the platform. So now I'm going to go to our scenery options, and we're going to press W for walls. We're going to use the Wall Stone Dry 3D Loft, and you're just going to click just like we did with the platform. You're going to go along, find all the arrows, and click on it with the wall loft, like so. There you go. So we'll leave a little bit of platform sticking out the back, I personally think that's fine because that gives you somewhere to put platform lights and station signs as well. So now for the ramp, click on the loft as if you were just going to lay it. Then on the end of the wall you've just laid, hold control to go nice and straight. Little something like that. And then use the gradient option and drag the wall down so it matches the angle of the platform, like so. Got a nice wall back of the platform. Now you can see here, this door is blocked off by the wall. So we're going to drag and turn the station building around until that door has access without the wall being in the way. So we'll bring it through until it's just disappearing, like so. So it's slightly on the wonk by the look of it. So click on it again and bring it around a bit, somewhere there, like so. And there we have a fairly basic and kind of empty looking station area. Nice and simple. We've got a platform with all of the doors on the station building having access. Shed, servicing point, inspection pit and a turntable. Run around loop with a head shunt. Then off in the distance we have the running main line. So there's one very quick thing that we need to do. These doors are also blocked off by the wall, so we're going to cut the wall using the split option like we did with the track earlier on. There we go. And then this will be a bit tricky. You might need to move the camera around in a weird way. Select and then delete the wall that we just split like that. So we'll do the same thing down here. Show you again. Split like so. And then split inside the station building. Bang, like that. Then move the mouse around until you find the hitbox for where the wall is. You might need to move the block out of the way to delete the wall, and then you can put the block back where it was. Like so. And there. Now there's access to the platform through the doors. So what I'm going to do here, that looks like it's jumped up a little bit in height, so I'm going to lower that down. I'm then going to go back into the AP Stations pack, and I'm going to scroll down until I find the fence options. So fence 1 is a very small looking fence. Fence 2 is an angled one. Fence 3 is the same kind of deal, but not on an angle. And then fence 4 is that. So we're going to see if this is the right size. We'll do 1.5 meters. And then, whoop. So that fits in the gap exactly, but doesn't give anyone access. So we're going to use this one here. Double click. 1.5 meters. Up like so. And we're going to put a gate across. Which end shall we do? Yeah, we'll do this end here. We'll put a gate across here. So you can see it doesn't quite fit in this gap. That's not a problem. So we'll get it roughly in line. Something like that. Kind of bury it a little bit in the wall like that. But that looks kind of silly. So what I'm going to do is this option here. Scale. We're going to bring the scale of this down slightly. So click on the top one and you can see it shrinks it up or down. So we'll shrink it down till it fits in that gap exactly, and there you go. That fits in that gap quite nicely. So this here won't have a gate. This will just have direct access to the platform. So what we're going to do with our fences, again the same as before, we are going to give it a fence going round the outside, so dumb passengers can't fall off. There we go. 1.5 meters. So we'll bring that to the edge of there like so. make that nice and straight. And as you can see, we can't fit another one of these fences in because this space is too odd. So we'll get one of these ones instead. So just keep going like this until you get the look that you're after. Now you can see that fence is slightly too long. So double click and you bring up this option here. And then here you see you've got the scale, the X, the Y, and the Z. So 0.8. Yeah, there we go. So it's the X axis to shrink things up like that. So that's only shrunk it in one dimension, as you can see. So now we can bury the post inside the other post like so. And that looks nice and neat. So I'm going to Control-C, Control-V on that fence. Swing it round like that. Double click on it. 1.5 meters. And then bury that post within that one, making sure that it's at least somewhat straight. Somewhere there. And if you wanted to, you could leave it like that. Well, not exactly like that, because that looks a bit dumb. We'll bring this in a touch. Maybe put it in a slight angle like that. You could, if you wanted to, leave it like that. That would be fine. But in this instance, we're going to change the x-axis. So we'll do 0.9. That looks about right. So we'll drag that out, bury that in there. So you can see, slight gap. You could ignore that, but in this case, we'll do 0.95. And that makes it just a tiny bit bigger. Like that. And that, I think, looks fairly respectable. So, I'm going to go ahead and do the exact same thing on this bit here. Okay, so there we go. That's that end done as well. You see with this one, I had to do a little bit more work to get it to fit. I had to do a 0.5, then a 0.75, etc. So this slope isn't actually straight to the building, which I've just noticed. So I'll do that. And then line it up with the edge of the building. A little bit like that. Tiny bit more. Like so. So now we need to go to the sloped fences, like that. And so this is already pre-slope, but of course you can change the slope angle if it's not quite up to satisfaction. So in this instance, we're just going to raise it up. And as you can see, the angle on that is almost perfect. So we'll bury the fence posts in the concrete a bit. There. That's almost perfect. So I'll bring it out just a tiny bit. Something like that. We're just going to have this fence be flat coming off of here. Something like that. So you can see the bottom rung is buried in the tarmac there. That's fine. We can hide that with a bush and you'll never know. So, that's the station largely done, as you can see here. We have a decent looking platform that can fit 8 coaches and a locomotive. We've got a double length, extra long wooden locomotive shed with storage out the front. We have a servicing point and a turntable. We have a head shunt and a run-round loop. For episode 1, that is basically it. In the next episode, we will be doing very basic track infrastructure, such as signalling. And I'm also going to tie that into station detailing. So it'll be track and station details. So thank you very much for watching. And goodbye.